Hello. How you doing? Mittens got down. I'm guessing marbles bothered him when he came to visit. You would think for two brothers they'd get along better, but they don't. Alright, so I went through last night, did some pre-shading just to add something underneath the white. We'll see if it works or not. I'm using an off-white mix. You can barely notice it, but it's just warmer than straight cold white. Okay, yeah, that's spraying fine. How's your weekend been so far? I'm not going to paint this part. It gets painted black and radome tan, I think. Or not black, but the deep brown color. Yeah. Because the idea, what we want to end up with on pre-shading, might be a little dusty. And of course it's blown out. But you can kind of make it out once I get close enough. Come on, autofocus. There we go. You see how there's just like basically a shadow around the panel lines? That'll pop out more once the wash is applied. How you doing, Love Minis? And it adds just a little more meat to the color, I guess you want to say. It's not just bland, boring white. It's just got a little bit of, you know, a little bit of something hiding underneath it. Ow, ow, ow. But the key to doing this decently is keeping your needle clean. But a couple ideas I got floating around for my next streams. I think I'll do the Centauro next. I'm not ready to kind of dig into something as big as the tank transporter just yet. I'd like to save larger models. Yeah, mine's been doing that too. Like, it'll just lose connection. So, just welcome in. I hope you're having a good weekend. Thanks everybody for the support. If anyone's been sharing my stuff, it's been getting noticed. I think I gained 10 more subs this week on YouTube alone, which means doing something right. Alien Hind, I kind of lost motivation on. Again, I'm looking at the fact that we're going to be moving here in a couple years. And if you notice, the things I'm doing are not as easily damaged. Like, I'll be selling the Refit Enterprise as well as the TOS Enterprise. I don't think they'll make the trip. The Refit, I will be able to buy again. I'll probably buy it as soon as I sell it, so I can rebuild it once I move. TOS, it wasn't high on my priority list to buy to begin with. I didn't buy it. It was given to me. And you can't get the light kit for it anymore, so... But the main reason I'm not doing the Alien Hind is the damn rotor blades. They're the size of a large pizza when it's built. And seeing how long it took me to get the Hind initially, I don't want to do anything that could jeopardize the model in the long term. Because I remember how well the one I was building in England handled the trip, and I don't want to repeat that. Granted, I wasn't doing the alien version of it, because it didn't exist at the time, but I did build one, and it didn't take to moving very well. I really like how this is coming out so far. But that's what I was thinking of instead of the tank transporter right now. We could do... I don't know if you guys want me to do another LAV. since I just did the LEV-25. Doing the family would be neat, but I don't know if that would get boring for people. Or the Oshkosh Hammett fuel truck, the M978. It's different, it's big, it's ugly, it's 8-wheeled. I think we're on a theme here with that, so may as well just go all into it, right? So maybe next payday, because I've got a couple I'm watching on eBay. After I put the Humvee money aside for that paycheck, we'll see where I'm sitting, and I'll order... I don't know, do you guys want the Hammett or the mortar carrier LAV? Or should I save something big like that for, like, once we get 1,000 subs on YouTube or something, use it as a goal. And just keep working on what I've got, like the Centauro and stuff like that. Because right now I'm sitting at... What am I sitting at? Like 560 something? Okay, one moment. Yeah, 566. Ares Studios, thank you for the tip. What? Meh. Okay, I will put that into savings for the Humvee. Good God. Oh, thank you very much. So yeah. We're still a ways out on getting that. I'm basically going to be buying one at auction. Unless I get lucky and I'm able to get a 1097 or a 998 low enough. It looks like the 1151s that run. So like they verified the engine starts and it moves. They're not selling. I've seen one that's been there for 4 auctions now. And my thinking is, the main reason they're not selling is because they've been stripped, because they were up-armored. They can't sell the armor. At least not to civilians. However, you can take all the remaining stuff off, because basically it's the Humvee with a roof and the back without the supplemental armor. There's a hole in the roof and there's no doors. Buying just the doors for that is about $3,000 if you want metal ones. I think people don't want to go through that, where I'm thinking, okay, I could buy this running chassis and bring it home. I gotta get that out of there. Come on, get out. Why aren't you coming out? Sorry, distraction. So say I get that running chassis at $3 to $5 grand, depending on where the auction ends. I can buy the soft top kit to install on it, essentially making it the 4-door soft top version that I want. You can take almost any Humvee chassis and make it into any other Humvee type. It's all modular, bolts-on, everything. But my plan is to get about 8 grand up. Find the out of paint. Find the ones that, you know, run reliably at auction. Follow for a few months beforehand. Follow the ones that don't sell, but make sure they're running ones. And there's videos that show them starting them, and it shows if there's blow-by in the engine. You know, they take the oil cap off, stuff like that, to see if they smoke or not. And just pick one that runs, doesn't have blow-by, has all 4 tires in decent shape. And if it doesn't sell, because right now the auction started about 3 grand for them. But if it doesn't sell in 2 to 3 auctions, the next cycle comes around, you know, let my boss know at work, hey, I'm going to need about a week off around this time. Win the auction. It's only a day's drive from here to go pick it up, and I am working off camera. And then, yeah, go get it, and maybe even, I don't know if reception's good enough, but I could at least record and edit a VOD together about driving it home. You know? And then little updates, things like that. And all it takes is, like you just saw Aries do, just little bits of help. I'm packing about 3 grand a month away right now. Also selling off some built models like the Refit and the original series Enterprise, which, like I was just discussing, I don't think would move very well when I go to Washington. So it's safer for the models and better for me if I just sell them. Now, if you do the math, that only puts me at about 3 or 4 grand by the time next July rolls around. That's why the Refit and the Katinga, the TOS, I'm selling quite a few models. One of the ones I'm not selling is the Kronos 1. Because I have to buy 3 supplemental sets to make it, I know I can't replace it. Not easily, anyway. But I'm selling about 3 grand's worth of models and figures. And whatever else I can put into savings between this and my paychecks, it'll add up. I have high hopes. And there's a bunch of people out there like, oh, people don't want them because they're junk, and, you know, no. People don't understand the passion I have for the things I do. Like my Camaro. A lot of people say, oh, it's an old car, it'll nickel and dime you to death. Outside of oil changes and necessary stuff, I've put no money into the car since I got it back. The leaf springs I already had on hand. You know, there's things I have done to it, but they're just necessary for upkeep for any car. Aries, thank you for that again. And the Humvee's no different. You just have to make sure that you're doing it right. Yeah, easier for me if they think they're junk. Because the thing... I'm going to put this down for a sec. The thing I want to make... Because I've wanted one since I was 10, right? That was 86 when they first came out. I was 10 then. So I saw my first one in person about 89 at an IPMS show down in Miami. They had a tow variant there, but just the look of the truck, the front end, just the way the whole thing looked, I wanted one right then and there. And I want to fit it out just like that. 4-door, soft top. Even if the antennas don't work, I want the antenna package on it. I just want it to look nice and tight and just... I just want to have a piece of history, really. You know? I know it sounds stupid to some people, but that's just how I want it. You know, I don't want to make some up-armored, you know, end-of-the-world bug-out vehicle. I just want a Humvee. I'm not going to be driving it very far every day, you know. Or if I do, it'll be for a reason. You get other people, oh, riding in them sucks, they're this, they're that. Well, that's because you're riding in them with the run-flat rings in the tires. I've talked to many people who've owned them. They've subsequently got rid of them because they probably thought it was cool because of big diesel truck. You know? I'm going into this understanding that it's not going to ride like a Cadillac. You know, you can't buy them at dealers anymore. You can only get them through auctions. You're looking at someone who used to take road trips in the middle of November in a Suzuki Samurai soft top. I know what a shitty rough-riding four-wheel drive vehicle can be with a soft top. I'm not new to it. And I think the next time somebody tries saying that, I'm going to be like, yes, you don't have to try and sell it to me anymore. I already know. But, no, I have a goal. I want to meet it. And I've put... You know, I've put a lot of things on hold in the past, and I'm tired of doing that. So this is one of those things where I'm like, this is something I've wanted, and I'm going to do it. And you keep hearing all these horror stories from people who get them. This ain't your fucking Duramax, buddy. This isn't a Cummins either. But that's also why I want it. Not because it's diesel, but it's just something I've always wanted. Because I'm gonna need some form of four-wheel drive capable vehicle when I move to Washington, regardless. Where we're planning on living, it's rather rural, and my finger just removed the paint there. Great. So the Camaro's not going to be viable for a lot. And this will also allow me time to actually take the Camaro off the street and do what I want to it, as far as the maintenance and stuff that it needs it. Yeah, in about 2.5 years. Long-term plan, wife wants... God damn it! Ah! Hold on. Fucking thing. Sorry, getting shaky again. And yes, I ate. So, do this for me. I used to own a K5 Blazer. And that was back in the early 2000s. Price out a decent condition, non-rusted out Blazer. You know, one that would be in reliably good drivable shape. And I'm not talking lowball, I'm talking average here. You're talking 8 to 10 grand easy. And that's used from a private seller. I also know the problems those vehicles can have. They are not cheap to fix anymore. Now that you've done that, price out a brand new Dodge or Chevy pickup truck. Given the track record of recalls on these vehicles lately, and what I personally know from a daily need, I'm not owning one of those either. And as far as ease of maintenance, I'm buying something that's meant to be worked on in the dirt, so as long as I've got a good concrete floor, some sturdy jacks, and a basic tool set, I'm good to go. Yeah, but how much are you paying for that Ram? And hey Davos, and now that it's over 10 years old, how easy are parts to get for it now? Yeah, how much were you paying for it? And I'm talking if I was to go buy one now, how much would it cost me? Even a 15 Ram these days is going for 18 to 20K and up in good shape. Yours is paid off for you, yes. But I'm saying if I were to go buy one right now, what would it cost me? And what would it do to my insurance rating? Yeah, I do. I've been sniffing around. So for me, I figure if I'm going to put money into something, I'm going to make it something I want and something I'm going to enjoy. And to be honest with you, I've driven newer Dodge Rams. I don't like them. There's too much, there's too many distractions, too much stuff, you know? Screens and indicators and all that crap. I don't want that. I'd rather be able to see out the vehicle than rely on a screen to tell me something. And that's the other thing in the Rams that I don't like, the ones that I've driven from, you know, past jobs and things like that. You can't see shit. Davos, I kind of agree with you. Cruise control, if you're able to get outside of the town on an open road, like if I go north of here, I could use cruise control. On the drive to LA and back over the summer, I tried using cruise control a bunch of times, and every time I turned it on, I got stuck in a gaggle of idiots because everybody likes to cluster up around here. And I had to turn it off because nobody around you can maintain speed. I couldn't even use cruise control on the open highway between here and Las Vegas. So cruise control is overrated as well. Well, that's another reason I want to get a Humvee. It's something basic in terms of automotive that I can add what I want to it. It is literally an aluminum box on a steel frame. Plus, look at what you have to do on one of your modern trucks. Say a CV axle goes out, right? It happens on the Dodge, it'll happen on the Humvee. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Right? Look at what you've got to do a CV axle on a modern truck. On a Humvee, it's 7 bolts. Yeah, that's another thing I'm wanting to avoid. And I've been looking at videos and doing research, and I'm like, this thing is easier to work on than my Camaro. And the only thing that keeps me from doing much on my Camaro is the fact that I'm not that flexible anymore. On this, I can actually fit under and around it easily enough that I could do it. And again, I can't afford to have my car down for very long, so I can't really do much to it right now. Well, it's not that bad, Davos. But at the same time, yeah, little wire breaks in some of the modern vehicles, and it does cause a headache in terms of trying to isolate and identify the problem. You're not totally off mark, but it's not scrapping the car worthy. But yes, I have seen many examples of how a simple wire break can send certain mechanics into shoot the parts cannon mode. When if they just check the ground or check for the green crusties, you know. Yes, I did get that one from fuck, I forget his name. South Main Auto. But yeah, look for the green crusties. And also, sometimes the problem tells you it's an electrical issue without you knowing it. And if you get a competent mechanic who actually does know how to diagnose electrical, he can save you more money than the dealership or the idiot just wanting to fire the parts cannon at it. Because a lot of times what happens with the parts cannon is they don't actually fix the problem. They generally stumble upon it by luck, and it gets fixed by accident when they're doing the rest of the work. So they think they got it the right way when they actually didn't. But depending on how much I pay for it, I could either take 3 or 4 days, drive out there overnight at Barstow, and then pick it up from the auction house and drive it back, if I'm feeling lucky. You know, I would have to pass through Vegas. Or I could have it trailered back, but what's the fun in that? Yeah. But every little helps. If you guys want to help toward that effort, just if you make a donation, just state what it's for. If you want it to go towards kits or supplies, just say this is for kits and supplies. If you want it to go towards the Humvee, just say the word and it'll go towards the Humvee. But it's just been a dream of mine since before I was even in the military. And even when I was in, I was like, I want that, I want that, I want that. Can't take it home. And I even have another idea with it. No. And I can actually show you. The Humvee sits less than 6 feet tall. It's actually more like 5 feet tall, depending on the package you've got on it. But even the armored back ones are still about the same height. And I'm talking basic vehicle height here. No weapons, no nothing else. Just your standard vehicle height. Let me finish this and we'll get back to that, because I want to get through this white before it starts clogging up the airbrush too much. They are wide, yes, but not as wide as you think. They're comparable to a Blazer. That's because your Ford F-150 is longer than the Titanic. A Humvee is actually about the same size overall as a short bed 1500 series Chevy from the 80s. Yeah, I can give you actually a pretty good example of how big one is. Yeah, the H2, it's not even a real Humvee though. It's a modified Yukon basically, one of the short wheelbase Yukons. But we're not talking about the H2. Which, funny story in that, because as long as I've known my wife, I've always said I wanted a Humvee. I wanted a Humvee. She thought I was talking about an H2 or an H3. Until one night she finally said that, and I'm like, why would I want one of those? She's like, what do you mean? When I say I want a Hummer or a Humvee, I don't mean one of those. And then just the look of realization happened in her eyes, and she's like, oh. Now, if I got, like, the ambulance top, which I may still try and get. I'd like to get the different packages for it that I could keep, you know, set aside. So say I want to go on road trips, right? Get the ambulance package. Strip out the stretcher mounts and make it into a small RV. Why pay for hotels when you have an air-conditioned unit hooked up to your vehicle already that doesn't change the size of the wheelbase? It just changes the height. Depending on the road trip you take, you could be saving a couple $1,000s in hotel fees. Okay. How can I grab this? But the H2 is not the same wheelbase as the H1. It's not even the same vehicle. And from what I understand, the old Defenders are cheap as chips in the UK. Or at least they were. Yeah, I also, side note, I solved the weapons loadout issue on this Valkyrie model. Okay, I've got to thin this paint to hair, it did get thick. Because one problem I've had in the past trying to do this on the Battroids is they don't have a butterfly joint in the shoulder allowing for forward and back movement. So I had to mimic one. I made some L-shaped supports that I'm going to glue the arms to that fit in the polycaps, and that moves the shoulders forward more, allowing the wings to be up for the weapons to be on. The old model didn't allow for that, so I wasn't able to put weapons on the wings. I'm not going to be posing it or anything anyway. I'm just going to put it on a nice display base and call it good. We're almost through the white phase. And again, the pre-shading is just to add a little bit of life, have a little bit of that grease and grime coming through. Yeah, it allows the grease and grime to come through, and it keeps the white from being dead to the eye. Especially once a wash is on, because that'll go into the details that the pre-shading's around, and allow them to pop. Originally, I was going to do 4 of these weapons pods, but I thought that was a bit much, so I swapped 2 of them out for nukes, which also leaves me with more weapons to put on the other Battroid kit that I've got to do. Typically, the gun pod would have been gunmetal. On this version of it, it's painted white. Because this is supposed to be like a quasi-ceremonial guard for the Minmay character in universe in her final tour before she left. Blah blah blah. If you know Macross, you know she disappeared. Maybe. Okay, we'll do that half, let that dry while we do half of this. Fortunately, I'm using Tamiya, so it does dry relatively quickly. I just better not start Humvee fever and have, you know, everybody buying them out before I can get one. But the other idea I had, especially where I'm going to be living, is make it the hobby Humvee. In that there are tons of hobby shops in the Pacific Northwest I could be going to. And I could also do little trips to like the Evergreen Aviation Museum, things like that. I don't know, I'm trying to think of ways that I can do things differently, but still keep with the theme. Because I think where I'm living, I'll only be like a 3 or 4 hour drive from it. Hey, Andy. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, that was on... Okay, I'm just trying to keep it straight because that was on YouTube. But the move is going to signal a radical shift in my own, like, how I do things in life. And I want to try and make it the best. Let's do the other side of the gun pod. Out of paint again. We're almost done with the white. Then we can start in the brush painting and at least gloss coating. But once I get the white done, I want to answer Davos' question about the size of the vehicle. And it'll probably surprise you. Especially if you've never been around one in person. But I'll preface it by saying they seem big because they're so low and wide. They have a high ground clearance, but at the same time they're low. and that's because everything's tucked up inside the aluminum body. The only thing that sticks down below it is the lower control arms for the suspension. Even the brake system, the way it's mounted, doesn't have flexible rubber lines that can break or be torn. It's all tucked up neatly away. Where can I put you? I can put you there. I want to get you back out, just so I can hit this area up a hair bit more, because I'm being paranoid about it. Okay, so this is all the pieces that have to be white. One more look just to make sure I got it looking okay. That's a bit bright still. Missed it. Missed it. There. There. There we go. That looks good. Okay, let me clean this out. So I have another regular Battroid kit. What I want to do with that is make it the TV version, and then I want to paint it cel shaded. So kind of like how it would have looked if it was animated, two-dimensional. Okay. Swizzle the brush around, get some of the stuck paint loose. But that will be for another stream. I don't want to do too many Macross models back to back. I've got plenty. But I think it's enough that it'll keep it changed up on the streams. Come on. But the main reason I want to get it by next summer is since we're moving in 27, or that's the plan, that'll give me time to weed out any issues that I do have with it and make sure that it's reliable. Alright, give me 1 second. Wow, that took an hour to do that? A bit longer than I wanted. Let me put up the pause screen real quick. I'm going to do my move around break, and we'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. So, well, that brings up the other thing. And I think it's also another misconception that people have. Humvees, yes, are designed to do some really extreme off-road things. They are capable if they absolutely have to. And that's just it. You've got people out there who have them, and they're not just doing it if they absolutely have to. And we missed a part. They're doing it every weekend for months on end to the utmost extreme capability of the suspension and a bunch of other things. So yes, it's going to break a lot more than it should. Is it capable of doing these things? Yes. Because combat, shit happens, you might not be in the most likely place to do what you need to do. Is it meant to do them day in, day out? No. But neither is a K5 Blazer, you know? And I think that's a lot of things that people don't get is the driver's training on these, and let's face it, you've got four-wheel drive vehicles being driven by over-caffeinated 19-year-olds most of the time. What's going to happen? You got people who buy these things and they think they're the next Whistling Diesel. What's going to happen? Hey, Alex! So yeah, of course they're going to break. And they're probably going to break more frequently than they would in regular use. I'm not going to use it like that. They used to be, Davos, but even your standard Land Rover that the British Army would use, right? It is capable, but not meant to do it all the time. But anyway, back to the size thing for you, Davos. That is one compared to a 6-foot-tall human. It sits shorter than a Blazer. It has much larger tires than a Blazer. That's going to be an issue coming up. But I know places where I can get tires cheap. It's actually just as wide as a 1500 series square body, give or take a few inches. But yeah, overall, it's smaller than a K5 Blazer. If that gives you an idea with a person for size comparison. Okay, let me get some more music going too. It's not meant to be this break through brick walls everyday kind of use vehicle. It's just meant to drive, and if you happen to have to go off-road for something, you can. Okay, so let's finish painting this, and then we can get to the dark brown parts. Or should I do the radome tan parts first? We're going to do the radome tan parts first. Yeah, I'm not going to baby it, but I'm not going to go out there and senselessly abuse it. How's that? But also being aluminum means the body won't rust out in 5 years because of driving in snow and salt. The frame is steel, but I can easily keep up on that. Hell, a nice little coating of fluid film every few months. Keep the rust away from that. Trying to think of the best way to put this down. Yep, just like that. Okay. Typically I paint these gray, but keeping with the motif, I might make these the same dark brown color as the thruster portion of the fast packs. And we've also been joined by Alley Cat. She's up here on the chair. She jumped up while I was doing my walk around break. But one of the ones I've seen that hasn't sold is a stripped down 1151 that will start with a jump. Yeah. It'll start with a jump and remain running, which means the alternator and electrical system's good. Just means the batteries are dead. The tires look to be in decent shape. No drivetrain problems noted. Knowing what I have in mind, I would jump on that in a heartbeat. And I would drive out and get it. Right? It's like I said, it's a day's drive. It'll be cheaper for me than having it shipped back. On the way out, I'd stop by the local whatever auto store and pick up 2 batteries, put them in the car. When I get there, put them in the Humvee, start it, and at least get it to the nearest auto supply store and give it a quick once-over, you know, top off the fluids, check for leaks, fix what I can, and then head home. If it rides like the space shuttle, it rides like the space shuttle. I can fix that later. Allie got down. Actually, we're going to do the dark brown next because there's parts I need to airbrush for that. All of the Radome tan stuff, I can brush paint. Because they're smaller. The largest largest Radome tan piece I have to paint is the intake, or not the intake, the nose. Other than that, it's just the 2 intakes and the backs of the leg pylons. I can brush paint those. And the inside of the exhaust. I don't know if I want to do that exactly. I might go with my usual copper in there for that and the verniers. Trying to stick to the instructions, but not religiously. Yeah, that won't break from my plans. So yeah, we'll do the chocolate brown next, since that also has a lot of brush painting to do too. Alright, so I want that, these need to be brush painted. I'll brush paint the pylons again. Tweezers, where did you go? That'll work. I mixed these paints up a while ago in preparation for this project. Okay. But mainly I'm trying to get this done because, one, I kind of got burnt out on the Fennec, I'm not gonna lie. Two, this has been sitting around a lot longer and I'm tired of looking at the box. Like, I like the model, don't get me wrong, but one less box is better. Yeah, I think that's turning out okay. I don't have it as dark as it is on the example on the box. I think they made it a bit too dark. More of a mahogany. Where I think mine fits more in... It's like in between what's on here and what's on the box. But y'all having a good weekend? My next day off after today will be Tuesday. So that's the next stream. Depending on where we are with this, we'll either be doing decals, or we may start on the Centauro. We'll see how the day treats me the day before and what kind of mood I'm in. Sometimes you just want something where you don't have to be too clean about it. And other days you want something that you have to be a bit more meticulous. But what do you all think of me making larger projects like the idea I had for the Fawn tank transporter as more of like a, thank you project where we get 1,000 subs on the YouTube channel and I do the tank transporter kind of thing. Because let's face it, that's a groundbreaking number. I haven't even got 1,000 followers on Twitch yet. So it's a goal, and it's something to be celebrated, I think. And it'll give me a little more time to prep for doing a project that large. Especially for planning ahead for moving it. Or I could do the Oshkosh fuel truck as that. Yeah, my Fawn didn't travel back from the UK too easily the first time I built it. Yeah, the black doesn't show through as much there, but it'll be noticeable once the decals are on in the wash. No worries, Alex. You're just fine. Ares was very gracious earlier and added to the future project fund, the Humvee fund. Who is... Oh, hi, man. Oh, that's Frank. We have a Frank at the chair. I think he's stuck. I might have to help him get unstuck. He's usually capable of getting unstuck. Yep. Hi, Frankie. Good boy. Hi, big guy. Yeah, nobody's perfect, Alex. Take your time. And don't apologize for celebrating a friend. Sorry, this paint's having flow issues, so I'm just puffing it on. Probably have to run some lacquer thinner through the brush after this. There we go. Whatever the blockage was is gone now. Good. Painting the outside that mahogany color, I'm going to paint the inside. I'm probably going to go with metallics, even though it would probably be better to do them white with a lot of exhaust streaking. And the main reason I'm doing it this way is just for a relatively even finish on them. Well, here we go again. I stopped spraying, so it gummed up. I'm looking forward to doing the decals on this model, to be honest. Very different for a Macross subject. That's the main reason I'm building it. It's just it's visually a very fun looking model. I'll just repaint the pylon by hand. It's a small enough part. Is everything else going okay, Alex? Actually, I think I might be coming up on 10 years streaming, which, at least on Twitch. Frankie, if you want to jump up, jump up. Come on. Yeah, I think I started in September of 15, maybe 16. I can't remember exactly when. I'd have to go back and look. Frankie, up. He decided to go on the couch. Why are you hanging on things today? Good lord. What's gotten into you? Go find your poof and I'll toss it for you. Oh, I get you. What the fuck? Oh, he knocked over the fan. I'm sure with your qualifications you won't have a problem finding decent work with better people. If I can do it, you can do it. And I am the sharpest bulb in the box. That being the sharpest bulb is usually the broken one. Alrighty. Clean this out. We can get to brush painting. I might need to go upstairs and wash my hands, though. I don't want to touch a white model with dirty hands. Okay, there's that. Oh, something else also arrived yesterday, Alex. Where'd it go? Oh, it's over there. Alex's generous donations helped us get this, which will be the subject of our next military stream. I'll be doing it up in a mid-90s fashion with Kosovo, no, not Kosovo, Bosnia I4, S4 markings on it. And I was looking at pictures of Italian troops at the time, and in 35th scale, I'd be able to fudge a mid-90s American tank crew figure to look like an Italian one. The helmets are pretty much the same looking. Uniforms, they're indistinct enough that as long as I get the camo pattern and the colors in the right places, I think I'll be able to make them look right. I might have a couple figures hiding around to fit the bill too. Well, you could also say I'm the dullest knife in the drawer. No, I know I'm not stupid, but I'm also not, you know, the most highly qualified person in the world for a lot of things. Got the airbrush cleaned out well enough for now. One last look before I go put this back on the shelf, though.
Looks like love at first sight to me.
Major Havoc, thank you very much for that. I do appreciate it. Every little helps. And you know, the funds will be going towards something extremely good. But it is Subtember. Subs are on a discount. Yeah, let me put the pause screen up, put this away, go wash my hands. We'll come back, we'll brush paint what we can, and then probably clear coat. While that's drying, I want to assemble the engines for the fast packs. I didn't get them built. So I'll be right back, and thank you again for that, Major Havoc. I'll be back in a moment. Has it been 8 years? I figured it was between 8 and 10. I couldn't remember to be sure. So these need dark brown. There's parts of the arms that need it. We got the feet. The hands need it. Okay, those are steel. But thank you very much for that. It is greatly appreciated. Okay. And then the fast packs. There. And there. Hey, model student. No worries. Okay. Since we're on the dark brown path right now, we'll take care of that, and then we'll move over to the radome tan. There's less of this to do. Where did I put the paint? There it is. I'm guessing that started a hype train, but the time elapsed. Yeah, I'm not paying too much attention to how many people we got watching and stuff like that, so. Oh, wow, 12. Okay, awesome. 12 subs anyway. Awesome. Yeah, it only made it up to level 2. That's okay. It would be neat to see how high we could get one day, but it unlocked the Spill the Tea emote, though. Of September. I could have sworn I was doing stuff before that, though. No, that sounds about right. Yeah. That Reliant is no longer with us. Oh, and, so yeah, we got the refit, Katinga, TOS, Hicks, and the guy wants to buy the Reliant that I'm lighting now, the smaller one. Alex, thank you very much for that. That will also be going towards the Humvee project, unless you want something else. Thank you very much. Okay, what was I doing? Dark brown. Shakes, don't hit me now. I did have a late start today as well. No, but the plan is once we move, depending on the market and the equity and all that stuff going on, there is a possibility I might be able to move over to full-time streaming. I'm not saying definite, but a good possibility. So I'll get the broad surface on that. We'll come back with a finer brush to get the edge. But I'm trying to not put all my eggs in one basket. The job I have now can transfer up with me if I need to keep it in a part-time capacity. But even part-time would allow me to move into more regular streaming again. And I don't mean to do it like it's my job kind of thing, but just my hobby. And I don't know, I just want to share it. But that would also allow me to plan for opening the hobby shop. We just want to get the move out of the way first, see what's going on overall, in her job and what I need in terms to start the hobby shop or just keep streaming. And it depends on the town we move to as well. Things are changing again. Right now it's still Washington, but it could be something more towards the Coeur d'Alene region of Idaho. I don't know. We still got basically 2 years to see what happens. A lot can change in 2 years. Part of me almost wanted to go and get Powerball tickets last night, drive up to Idaho and get them. Because our wonderful state doesn't have a lottery. One of my coworkers even said, why don't you go to Wendover, see if you could kind of get a jump on things that way. The gas it would cost to get there and back, it's only a 90-minute drive. But it's not smart. Just driving there, I stand to lose more than I would gain. But that's the point of it, isn't it? Hey, Centel. Yes, you were gifted a sub. Welcome in. But wow, it's really been 8 years. Well, for those of you who have been here those 8 years, thank you for staying. It is much appreciated. It has not gone unnoticed. It kind of makes me wish I'd also started YouTube at the time as well. But if I remember right, YouTube didn't have streaming and such long-form videos back then. They were still... I want to say they were still an hour or less. Like, they still weren't up to the extremely long-form stuff at that point. I think that's the main reason I started on YouTube when I did, is because they finally started allowing longer stuff, and then they started allowing live streaming. That really does look nice on this kit. Okay, we'll let that dry. We'll come back and do the ball joint. Well, that's the other impetus behind what I'm doing now to get the Humvee, is I've been looking at what I've spent on model building recently. I've got enough to sustain me for a good bit. Unless you guys want to see something specific, which, like you did, you donated the funds specifically for that model and stated that, so I got it. And it will be bumped to the front of the line, basically. But outside of that, I'm not going to spend a lot on models outside of supplies and such, because I've got enough, and there's another goal I want now, you know, so I was starting to get onto the cusp of stupid when it came to this. Yeah, so at the time, YouTube wasn't as viable as it is now, and it could be argued that YouTube still isn't viable, because every time they do something that could be beneficial, and I'm going to use this word in its actual meaning, they retard themselves by doing something else to detract from the benefit. It's like, okay, let's allow this long form stuff. Let's allow creators to do streams and these longer videos, which would get more views, which would get more people, which would generate ad revenue. But then, after we do that, let's make it so it's harder for people to find the channels for the people doing that, so that way they don't get views, and they don't get found, and they don't get watched, and they don't get ad revenue. And that is exactly what they did. They changed how your views count. Okay, there's that. It sounds completely ass backward, but it's what they've done. They keep rolling out all these different things and different controls, and then they neuter your ability to use them effectively. Okay, so this is for the lower part from... Damn it. I'm gonna have to... Okay, I know what I can do. I know what I can do. I can at least paint from this line down. Easily enough. Yeah, a lot of people are wondering the legitimacy of the decision-making processes at YouTube headquarters lately. To me, it feels like they want to promote you only if they benefit, not you. So, like, a starting channel. How does it benefit YouTube for that person to become larger and get monetized, right? Now hear me out. When before they get bigger and before they get monetized, so before YouTube or the advertisers have to pay the person through AdSense, which costs them money, they are making money hand over fist from that creator's content when they're non-monetized, because they can stick their own ads on that person's content with no repercussions. That's why their requirements to monetize are so outlandish that a lot of people just give up before they reach even 3,000 viable watch hours. But I think a lot of people were starting to hit that, so they changed it again on how your views count. So if you want your views to count on a YouTube person that you're following, watch their stuff. Even if that particular thing is boring to you, watch their stuff. Leave them on play, mute it, do whatever, but leave it playing and go clean your floors, because your hours don't count unless you either interact, like you comment, or you watch the entire video. So like when you click on something like a short and you only watch 30 seconds of it, that didn't help the person. And if anything, that negatively impacted it, depending on the length of the short, because now YouTube's like, okay, these people don't want to watch all of the short, we're not going to promote it. even though it could be getting crazy hits, the views aren't counting, so it's telling the algorithm not to push it. Like the YF19 one, it took till today to break 1,000 views. I'm using my shorts as an example. So I'm trying to figure out what the correlation is. Whereas the A4 that I put up the same night was at 1.2 or 1.1 thousand views last night, right? I woke up today. The YF19 is now at 1.3 thousand views, which means it got boosted in the algorithm somehow. More people saw it and found it. And the A4 is only at 1.2, so its views got reduced. Why? I don't know. I've got some of my own habits to change. As a creator, like when I put a short up, you know how you put a short up, right? And your first instinct is to go in and start sharing it. Well, while you're doing that, you're not watching all of it. So every time you stop, you're actually reducing its exposure in the algorithm. Whereas if you didn't do anything and just left it, it would get more initial exposure. So for me to, like on YouTube, for me to monetize right now, I still have to get... Where's my fine brush that I need for this? 3,000 view hours minimum if I'm going to turn on memberships or anything like that. Or 3,000, what was it, 3,000 shorts or 3,000... 3 million shorts views or 3,000 hours in a year. 3,000 view hours in a year. It doesn't sound impossible, but it's not easy. Like right now, I'm only at 633 view hours. That feels low, but it's because of how they change things. It seems like every time they get someone like Pirate Software who games the system, ow, or that weird guy, motherfuck, that hurt, or that weird circular talking motivational speaking guy, they have to change what the algorithm does. Because somehow that person just gamed the system and robbed them, you know. When you do that, it kills it for the rest of us. Because now we have to reset how and what we do. That second one really hurt. That felt like I had to inhale every breath I'd taken since I lived in England. Whew.
All the way upstairs.
Hold on. Let me pause real quick. I'll be right back, guys. Mason's heading back up to college. He was visiting for the weekend, and I have to go move cars around so that we can put his Mini in the garage. It's easier if he doesn't have it up there. So, be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, so I got around that one. I need to do this one. So I keep referring back to the paint diagram, just so I know I'm getting the right stuff in the right spots. Now, I want to make a base, though, where this is kind of suspended in more of an action-y pose. So once it's all built, I'll figure out a pose for it. And then using a length of metal rod, I'll make a support and all that fun stuff.
Looks like love at first sight.
What? Major Havoc, thank you again for that. Davos, enjoy your sub. No ads. Let's go back to the legs, because if I'm right, yep, the inner joints are the dark brown, so like this area here, and then on the back, all of this, so... Nah, Davos is good people. Yeah, I really do appreciate everybody who's been here for a good while. Ah, fudge. I'm going to have to touch that up by brush. That's okay. I know I've been through some rough stuff. And thank you for tolerating me at my worst and my best. It really does mean a lot to me. And it lets me know I gotta be doing something right, you know? It's not just, you know, streamer Stockholm Syndrome. So I have an idea for the Centauro. I know I've been using that camo netting a lot. And I've got the green stuff to use still, but I don't want to use it on the Centauro. I need to really do a good image search and see if I can find one in the snow using the Barracuda netting system. Because I think doing a vehicle in the snow would be interesting. It would definitely be different. And it would help add something to what could be seen as a relatively plain vehicle, since... Oh, I know. And lately the lights have actually been lights. But I know you've been here when there's been some trains, too. But I think I'm dealing with the trains better. Not always the best. Aries can attest to that. We all have our good days and bad. I've had more bad days than I like, but isn't that the way it goes? One bad day is one too many. Okay, I need more brown paint. And I think, you know, without getting too personal, it's been hard for me to maintain this because of the other decisions I've been having to make in the past couple of years. But each time I came out on top, sometimes Have I possibly overdone my reactions to things? Yeah. But everybody handles this crap in their own way, I guess. But I'm also trying to think positively, like, I know years ago it was, why aren't people watching me? And that's a bad way to think about it. It's more, what can I do to get people to see me? That should be the question asked. And ever since I've concentrated on that, the growth has been slower, yes, but the people that are here, I think, are the better for it, right? And I don't mean in terms of like donations and stuff like that, but they're learning watching me. I'm learning talking to them, you know. And it's helping me see that, you know, sometimes the smaller audience can be the better one. Would it be nice to be bigger? Yes. Right now, though, and I've said it before, I don't know if I could handle 100 people in here talking at the same time. Not that a model building streamer would ever get that, but you know how it goes. And there's been times I've wanted to switch over to games a bit more, but I'm like, I suck at games. I know I suck at games. How would that be fun? This is what I'm best at. And I've seen a lot of people get caught up in that, you know, why aren't I getting more views? And it shouldn't be about why aren't I getting more. It could be more about what kind of people am I attracting, and if I'm getting more views, do I want the kind of people that's attracting? Because you can get people that can actually bring your stream down in the audience because of how they can be. And even I've had that happen. I've had people that I've had to quietly remove. Let me go. Aries, are you able to get that on kick, or do you want me to handle it? I got it up. Doop. Done. I've had to quietly remove a couple of people that honestly would bring me down. And I've noticed that too. There's I'm not gonna name names. Those who have been here long enough know who the names are in these groups, but there's certain individuals in other groups and sci-fi things and armor things that, what's the word I'm looking for? They have a rather pretentious air of describing what they're doing. Too many words. They overcomplicate. And I find that confusing to an audience. Like, pre-shading, right? The way I go about that. It's easier just to say I'm trying to put life behind the white paint. You know, I'm trying to make it look less dead to the eye. Bingo. Done. That's all you got to say about it. And there's other people that'll try and make it sound like some life-changing metamorphosis of stuff. It's like, no, It's not what it is, but yeah, you know, good try. Okay, so it looks like the collar here. So there's a collar lip of detail where it looks like the canopy would plug in fighter mode. That is also this darker color. Okay. But I think the way I describe stuff also comes from how I learned by looking at pictures in books. I didn't have anybody telling me word for word how to do it live, so I could watch their every brushstroke and hear every nuance of the words they use, right? So because of that, yeah, I think explaining it simply while showing it gets a better result than trying to describe the mood and atmosphere and all this other stuff. You know, because that's all personal. That's all in the person building the model. I'm trying to describe to you what I'm doing to achieve a result. If you want to use that result is up to you. But here's how I do it. I gotta repaint that now. See, I got sloppy. Night Shift is the same way. He describes what he's doing, but he doesn't get artsy-fartsy about it. And there's no preconceived pretentiousness about him either. I haven't watched his videos lately because I really haven't had time, but yeah, he's one of the few people I'll sit down and watch from beginning to end. One day would I like to do more short form 20-minute stuff? Yes. Do I have the time to make that a reality right now? No. Not on a regular basis. And I don't have confidence in myself to be able to narrate something without doing it live. I'm very much still on the fly and spontaneous about that kind of stuff. I'm not... Could have sworn I got paint on something else that I need to retouch. Spontaneity works better for me right now than trying to do a pre-scripted thing. So short form is not my strong suit. At least short form that's descriptive, like what Night Shift does. But I'm also willing to acknowledge that it's not a strong suit for me and just press on from there. Exactly. We weren't... The way we learned about model building wasn't in a way of this is the only way to do it. It wasn't so much blinders on, right? It wasn't, okay, here's the AK products, here's the MiG products, you can only use those. It was, here's how you do it, here's what you can use, but try something else. Okay, if I remember right, I can get this off of here. Yep, I need to paint that dark brown. And I think there's too many people and it's coming around again. I've been saying this a bit lately, that back in the early 2000s, I want to say 02 to 08 range, it was all about listing off every pigment product that you used on your model, and every name brand product, right? And anytime you saw somebody build something, I use this by this company, and this by this company, and this by this company, but they were all the it was never about the technique or the fact that you could do it with something else. It was all about the name dropping. And this is before people were even being sponsored by that. Hey, model student. And that's kind of creeping back in again. It's like every time I see somebody post that they'd used these special, extremely expensive paints that properly reproduce the paint used on the Millennium Falcon back in 1976 when it was built by ILM and this and that, I'm like, I laugh in Floquil. But that's only because I have the Floquil paints. But you don't need those specialized paints. You just need to learn to read the color. Or, if anything, paint it however you like it, whatever looks good to your eye. And finally, model students able to catch me live. I hope I don't disappoint. Oh, and you're a bad influence. Bad. Bad man. Bad. What's a crazy ride? Oh, my channel? It depends on how manic I'm feeling that day, really. No, model student watches all the VODs all the time. I appreciate it because that does tell the algorithm, hey, this person's worth watching. Yeah, I never thought about that. I mean, that's all pigments really are. Is it's essentially the coloration powder used in things like that sidewalk chalk without a binding agent. That's all it is. And honestly, sometimes the binding agent helps. The few times I've even tried using pigments of any kind, I was severely disappointed in their results. I found I got better results to my eye and the end result that I wanted by using airbrush dusting, chalks like that, bingo, Major Havoc. It's good to have a foundation that is based on the original colors. Don't get me wrong. Because that's part of getting it looking right. But how often do you find out that, oh, the Enterprise D was actually base coated in light ghost gray and dark ghost gray for the different panels? That's it. You've got people out there that are going 20 miles out of their way to achieve a result that was right next door, right? But not many people know that those models are painted those colors. And that's kind of what they're relying on, is the perceived ignorance of the end user. What are you sorry about, Alex? If you gotta go, I understand. You gotta sleep. I work tomorrow too, though, but I'll be back on Tuesday. Tuesday will be my next stream day. Probably around the same time, if I'm feeling as bad as I was this morning. It took me an hour to motivate myself to get out of bed. That's how just creaky and stiff I was feeling. I just, ugh. I probably shouldn't be admitting that, but it's the truth. I was that lazy and lackadaisical today that it took me an hour to drag my fat ass out of bed. I'm thinking that's it with the dark brown. Unless I spot something else, so let's move on to the radome tan. No, Leo, that's fine. That's the kind of interaction I want, where you guys know I got enough models. I've been talking about how I'm trying to not spend, but there are certain things you want to see me do. So if you, like in your case, you made a donation to cover the cost of the kit and shipping, a little extra for leeway. But you made sure to be able to cover the cost of the kit, and you stated specifically that you wanted that to go towards the kit. Bang, done. That's all I needed, you know? That lets me know what you want to see, and you'll be seeing it probably next week. I want to get this model finished first. Because this one's been languishing for about a year now, and I'm getting tired of seeing the box on my shelf. Every time I pick it up, I'd lose interest. So now I've got interest in it, so I'm using that motivation to finish it, and I'm motivated to do the Centauro. One, I saw a model student do his. Are you doing yours in the UN markings? Because the last I saw it was white. I don't want to copy you, that's why. I have a feeling there's a lurker that has been running off with my ideas, and I want to be sure I'm not doing the same thing you did. In a way, model student, we are all enablers in one way or another, via either ideas or monetarily or what have you. Okay, you're doing the UN one. I'm doing the green one. But I need to see, like I said earlier, I need to see if I can find pictures of one, even on exercise, in Italy or Spain, because I think those are the two main users of it, with white barracuda netting for winter use. I found a couple winter camoed ones, and I've seen ones using the green barracuda, but I just want to be sure that what I'm doing is supported by something. I don't want to do something too anachronistic. I just want to make sure what I'm doing is based in fact and not totally out there, which I'd probably be fine. No one would really care in the long run. Keep it up. If you got any questions, if you have an idea that you want to try, but you just can't get it kind of clicking over, ask. I'll probably throw 10 solutions at you that are easy to do, if there's something you can't think of. I've been doing this for over 40 years now, so... Am I the best at it? No. But I've been doing a lot. I've got Here's a way to look at it. It's not a question of whether or not the person's the best at it. I got 40 years of fails to support my successes. Maybe I should put that on a shirt. Because I've been thinking of how else to, like, generate income. Would things like shirts work for you guys? You know? Well, I'm glad you see the carefree. There's been times where I've been kind of You know how in anime you see that character with the purple haze around them and they're always just like mopey and you know? There's plenty of times I've been like that. I am not gonna lie. I try to not bring that on the stream, but there's a couple people here who've known me for over 20 years now, and they know when I'm not in the right place. So I have Radome Tan by Mission Models. I refuse to use it from now on outside of a color sample. Because it does not like decal solution. It will reactivate and run off the model. Mission models are incredibly inconsistent and unreliable to me. So do not use their paints. I will say that. Do not use their paints. If they have a system, it's garbage. If you're supposed to use their specific primers and sealants and all that stuff, no thanks. Okay, I could probably get that smoother looking. Let's let that dry. Okay. So, but I did find I had a Tamiya paint that matched their color. So here's their Radome Tan. And yeah, for that price, junk. Now, one paint I am starting to use more, it's about the same price. I'm going to see about picking up some of their military colors next time I go to Hobby Lobby. Createx. I'm really beginning to like this brand. I know it's been around for a while. It's just never been on my radar. I've only ever really seen it used in RC circles. I'm beginning to come around to him, though. Because another thing I'm about is I'm into using things I can get locally. Nobody around me carries any of the other stuff that people are using. I can get Tamiya locally. I can get Vallejo locally. Or quickly enough on Amazon that it's beneficial. I also know they are intuitive to what I do and how I do it. Createx is proving that they are as well. So I'm probably going to start adding them to my lineup, and Hobby Lobby carries more of their range than they carry of Vallejo's range. And there's other stores around me that carry them, and Tamiya. Yeah, these are going to take a couple of coats. No, it's not that people are starting fights, but I know it's something that people don't want to see, right? And I totally understand it. Because people come to streams like this to bullshit, have a laugh, and have a good day, right? They don't come to be dragged down by the streamer. And I'm trying my damnedest to make sure that doesn't get in here anymore. Some days I fail, and I do apologize at those. And there's some days I'll be in a good mood, but I physically can't do it, you know, like I can't convey what it's like. Because there's just some days where it feels like I have clamps on my joints that are just being tightened down. And it's nothing that you guys are doing at all, right? And there's so much I want to do on those days that I'm unable to do because I just can't physically bear to sit like this for 2 to 3 hours at a time. And I feel bad because I can't do that. But I'd rather miss a stream than see you guys or have you guys watch me get angry at myself because I'm fumbling, I'm dropping stuff, and it's so damn tiring when that happens, right? Yeah, Vallejo, I've learned there are no thinning ratios. You have to find what works best for your air pressures and your airbrush that you use. I can't explain it any simpler than that. I've tried flow improver, I've tried drying retardant, I've tried high pressure, low pressure. It varies from paint to paint. But when you find that sweet spot, bam. Vallejo almost works as smoothly as Tamiya. But on the other stuff, I know you guys have seen those days where I seem just not here, where I'm distracted. And I hate it when I'm like that. Okay, we'll let that coat dry. Blend that in a little bit. Okay. Yeah, we'll let that dry. If I can put it down somewhere. There we go. Tamiya is easier to airbrush. It sucks to brush paint. The way the paint works, it dries too quickly on the surface, so when you have it on your brush, it skins over before you can apply it to the model, which in turn causes it to gum up. But I have found, and hear me out, I know there's people out there that'll call me an idiot and call me stupid for it, but I found it works for me. When you get a fresh pot of Tamiya paint, spray Windex or any ammonia-based window cleaner in it, up to, because the paint will be below the lip of the jar here, right? Squirt Windex in it until it's about even with the lip of the jar, and then shake it really well, right? Once you do that, it will be brushable, and 9 times out of 10 for broad work, it will airbrush perfectly. I know, and I'm trying to really not allow myself to get into that mindset of I must stream for there are people. I know you guys are out there, and I know you guys are watching. And that's where the appreciation comes in. I appreciate every time you're in here. But how many times have I told you, you know, if I'm streaming at an odd time, I'm sorry, but please do not, you know, don't give up your own health to watch me stream. At the same time, I'm not going to give up my health to push myself to do something when I know I'm not there. I'm not going to cause myself more hardship for that. And I know you guys will be here. Some days I'm on at the right time, some days I'm not. I'm just trying to figure out what it's trying to show me with the decal placement and all this. So if I'm reading this right, this is on the inside of the leg. So one leg's going to have this on it. Okay. I'm so confused. Okay, yeah, so this pattern's going to go on the inside of this leg. Because this side's going to be covered by the fast pack. That was all your fault, Ares. As I told you that I was probably going to be back on. So there was one day I did a live stream. And I ended it for then, but I said I might be back on later, so keep an eye out. You guys remember the Screech Owl scene in My Cousin Vinny where Joe Pesci's running around shooting in the darkness with his gun? I almost gave Ares that reaction because he left his TV on to my stream channel. And I had restarted my stream. He had gone to sleep. The sound woke him up, but he didn't know where it was coming from. So he's running around his house with his pistol in hand looking for somebody. And it turns out it was me on the TV. That had me laughing for a good 5 minutes. When he described it, I could automatically see in my head that scene from My Cousin Vinny. Okay, so it's only the inner surface of this upper intake. I'll have to touch that up a little bit. Now, did you hear me, or was it your dog reacting to me that alerted you and kind of made you go, eh? Ah, fudge. No, he didn't shoot anything, but like that scene, I could imagine him, because at the time he lived in a different place, which was, you know, nice and quiet and heavily forested, and there was nobody around. So if he'd run outside and started shooting, I wouldn't blame him if he had done that. Yeah, see, the dog started barking, and when that happens, that means intruder to most people. Especially when you're borderline living in the Appalachians at the time. You don't know if the fucking hills have eyes or if the banjo player's coming to get you. You know, for all I know, the Whitaker family was his next-door neighbors. And if you don't know who they are, if you Google them, don't blame me for the horrors that you are about to witness. Who's that? Hi, Mittens. We have a mitty kitty. Hi, big guy. Chaircat is here. No, but today is one of those days where I feel like I'm firing on all 4 cylinders at least. Even though I've got 8 of them. Wait, no. So I think this is all I want to do for right now in terms of brushwork. Because now I've got to clear coat it. Like I said, once I clear coat it, I want to assemble the engines and get them going. So let me put some sub-assemblies together and figure out what stupidity I'm about to jump into. Oh, excuse me. And I've got to remember which arm is which. So this is actually... Okay. Because that only matters around that way. Okay. There we go. This will be... I guess it doesn't really matter. It only matters once I start applying decals. Okay. Here's that. Ah, I have to repaint the pylons. Okay. Hey, Mittens. And for the newer people here, can you guess why Mittens is named Mittens? And we got to do a second coat of Radome Tan. Jumping ahead of myself. Yep, Ares just gave a clue. If you count the number of things on the paw there. Okay, we need more music here in a second. Most cats have 18. He has 24. Not chromosomes. Okay. Let's try this one. If this one gets weird, I'll switch it up to a different one. He is a good cat. It doesn't feel like I caught him 11 years ago. We're coming up to Marble's capture date pretty quick. I remember catching him in September, which means they were born in August. But yeah, it doesn't feel like 11 years on him. Hell, it doesn't feel like 19 years on my own son. No, I didn't capture him, but... Yes, he has 7 toes on his front paws and 5 on his back. He is a Hemingway cat or polydactyl. But he is also feral. Gotta catch them all. No, they're not Pokemon. But Mittens was the easiest to recondition, as I caught him, I think, literally a day or two away from death. Because I caught marbles, like I said, in September. They were born at my old job, just running around. We couldn't catch the mama cat. But I could feel the vertebrae in his tail. He was that thin. Marbles I got early enough, he still had a lot of his kitten fat on him, so he was easier to, recover. Mittens took a couple months, and there was a time where he almost didn't make it. Jen had to bottle feed him. But now he's a snugglebug. Marbles, however, bit through my finger when I caught him. He's always been an asshole. Okay. I keep touching the paint. Stop touching the paint! But he absolutely hates strangers, though. Which is a shame, because he would be an awesome cat to leash train, I think. But with his demeanor, it really is like owning a miniature snow leopard. But because he's feral, when he gets scared, he gets really scared. There's a time he got behind our washer and dryer, and he heard me, so he tried jumping out. And I called Jen down to give me a hand in case we had to move the dryer. She put her hand up onto it, and he saw that, and he jumped up thinking he'd be able to get out. And he actually put a permanent scar on her arm. You know, he didn't mean to. It wasn't like violent or vicious or anything. He was just overreacting in the only way he knew. I would love to have a bobcat. I would just hate to see what happens when the bobcat loses his temper. I can only imagine what that one guy goes through with Weave the coyote. I know he says that Weave doesn't ever really do anything wrong to him, and he's only drawn blood a couple of times on accident. But you would have to really know how to read that animal's body language, for sure. And I think a bobcat would be a lot like that. Yeah, is Major Havoc still in here, or did he take off? I know it's late where he is. I'm giving the radome tan sections a little more time to dry, so I'm painting these missiles. Okay. But the only other pet I miss is my little chinchilla. She passed from natural causes. The vet we took her to when she started her downward spiral said that we'd done an excellent job, and that for a chinchilla in captivity, she wasn't just old, she was ancient. Because we'd had her for about 10 years, and we don't know how old she was when we got her. Somebody gave her to us. But she passed away in... yeah, just after Halloween of 22. Wait, one other thing. Where'd it go? What, Mitty? Do you want lap time? Is that what you're getting at? That's another weird thing. He usually doesn't do lap time. He spent an hour and a half in my lap yesterday afternoon. I hope it's just him getting older and chilling out. Come here, bud. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. Come here. Here, let me lift you up a little bit. Careful with the claws. I'm wearing shorts, not my blue jeans, so careful with the... Okay. He doesn't want lap time, he just wants chair time. Yeah. What is it, buddy? Hmm? You got down here. Yeah, I know. It's not as big as the other chair. You don't fit so easy. Yeah. I am the chair captain now. Now, he just gets these bugs up his butt where he really wants attention, things like that. But he doesn't, because of how he was before I caught him, he doesn't know exactly how to ask as far as like cats. Like, he always seems to be extremely nervous about things. He's very cautious. Yeah. Good boy. He might get down. Allie just came out of her donut. Okay. Let's get these areas their second coat. Let's drop the model again. But he's not an outdoor cat. Okay, drop didn't work. Oh, he got down. Yep. He's not afraid of Allie, but I don't know. They don't fight each other, but they're always looking at each other, giving each other stink eye, you know? Let me try it on my end and see if it works, Aries. Just let me know if I need to go through and refresh the commands. Probably. I just refreshed the commands browsers, see if that does it. But like when you're brush painting, you see how like I put the Radome tan down and it didn't cover completely. There's some people who would go back and try and put another coat on. Let it dry. And the less you mess with the initial coat, the fewer brush strokes you have. The more you stroke the paint, especially after you apply it, the more chance you'll get a brush stroke. Especially as it's starting to cure on the surface. But if you're just quick and decisive, and make sure it's mostly where you need it to be, you'll have a relatively stroke-free experience. No. Do I smell toast? Like, I'm trying to follow the seam line here, but there is a decal that goes around there, so as long as I'm near the seam line, the decal will cover if it's not too even. As long as most of my paint stays on the correct side of that line. There. Now, is there anything else, base color-wise, that I've missed? Believe it or not, a lot of these larger swaths of color are all decal. Hasegawa loves doing that. Anything that's dark gray, like the thrusters on the leg units or back here, painting that after I flat coat it because it's metallic. Face! Okay. And I almost always try and paint metallics last. So there's those tweezers. Where did my other ones go? There they are. Okay. Normally I'd use my floor finish gloss. I want to... no... I did notice that this stuff wrinkles up too much. It reacts with the decal setting solution. So I think I'll use my standard gloss for right now. But if you need a high gloss finish, this stuff is it. Like I said, there's a learning curve for almost everything I've got here. And I just hope that if there are people out there watching these VODs, that they enjoy them. I noticed I got some people watching them after the fact. There's some that have gotten up into the triple digits. Nothing extremely high, but I know they're being watched. And I hope one day I do something that gets them to click that subscribe button. I can't make anybody do it, you know? It's a good thing I just flushed this because a lot of brown came out. I think that's another reason I haven't gone full-on short-form videos, is I don't know editing software. You know, I need to learn that, and again, between doing the streams, the shorts, and my regular job, I've got enough on my plate. I just wind up frustrating myself and having bad reactions. Right? And I don't want that. Let's do one side of the gun pod, and then we'll do the other after it dries, just like we did before. Put you back over here. Same thing on the nukes. Put you down if I can. See, I thought you were clipping down live streams that you'd done. Oh yeah, the gloss coat's making the pre-shading pop a little bit, which once the decals are on and the wash is done, those are going to really come out nice. You can see how the pre-shading works that. I actually have an example to show you. Unfortunately, it'll blow out because of the lights, but let's see what I can do. Too dark. I'm still doing the decals on it, but yeah, you can tell that when the panel wash goes on, those are gonna snap. But I'm into the worst part of any aircraft model decal phase on that. It's all the no step markings. Well, what got me started in streaming, and the way I looked at it, is, you know, I don't know about the Warhammer guys. I'd seen them streaming before, but for me, it was if I've got the time to sit here on my ass and paint something. You know, if I've got the time to do this, why not have other people to talk to while I'm doing it? That was my impetus behind it. And then it became more and more. Yeah, I'm trying to monetize it. I'm not going to lie. If I can make a little dosh out of it, why not? But it's not the primary reason for it. The primary reason is so I don't go nuts sitting down here playing with little plastic toys. Out of clear coat. Where did I put it? There it is. Yeah, there's a lot of people that used to use Future for this process. Future doesn't exist anymore. So this is what we use now. I do, and I think that's the other part of it is I've always loved doing this as a hobby, but I started to notice, how can I put it? I don't want to say a sense of loneliness, but I didn't like how solitary it felt. In Canada, it might be called Pledge with Future Shine. but the future aspect of it doesn't work or isn't made here anymore in the States. I think loneliness is too strong of a term, but it's the best thing I could think of. But definitely a sense of disconnection. And I don't want to say community. It's hard to find the word, because you can get community from a model club, but at the same time, like, I don't go to my model club anymore for reasons. I can get into that if you want. It's not ranty, and you know you'll probably understand, but they're my reasons. Part of it is the location I feel is unsafe. Not because of, like, crime, but because there's only one way in or out, and it's shared with an apartment complex. So there's a lot of high traffic, and it's on a main road. So that's strike number one. But other aspects I'll leave aside, unless asked specifically. Yeah, I've never done journals before either, and I didn't see this so much as a journal, but part of it was also the more I'd see other people do their streams, I began to see that my way or no other way mentality. And for that, I think it was more due to ignorance, because at the time, the wargaming side of the hobby the wargaming side of the hobby didn't talk to the scale modeling side of the hobby, yet everybody used the same techniques. So I'm seeing these guys use techniques that they're touting as the latest and greatest thing in wargaming, and I'm sitting here thinking, you know, I've been doing that shit since the 90s, right? And I got kind of tired of seeing the smugness in it. And I'm like, you know, I got to put my own foot out here and start showing things. You know, I got to show that it doesn't have to have GW on the label in order for you to enjoy it or use it or anything else. Or any other names. There's more than one way to skin a cat or paint an orc. And I keep dripping my clear coat. It's got this off-white milky color. Wait, what? Well, that's... And it's not any disregard to his work. Next Level does some good work. And it's not necessarily them, but the other aspect that really put me off and made me want to do this is... And you see it a lot in the wargaming community, especially. You get the feeling you have to be a character. No. No. And I've even been told myself that I'm negative, and I'm like, no, I can't act like I've had 800 milligrams of caffeine in 10 seconds all the time. It's just the way I am. You know? It's not a discredit to those who do it. I mean, if you've got that energy, use it. I can't be that way. And that's what I mean before when I've said that on other streams, is I can't be a character. I just have to be who I am. And I still feel like I'm trying to find a place where I fit, too. And that's the hardest part. And I've come to realize that I don't need so much of a place where I fit. I've got to make my own hole. And if I throw a little sand in the process, then I throw a little sand. Because God knows I've had sand thrown at me before. Now I can't put this down. Durr. And I even began to see it kind of bubble over into even in my club, right? That pretentiousness that I see in certain other people has begun to creep in there. And I can't just very well go, shut up, you're what's making the hobby wrong, as people think they have to be like you to do it. No, that's the wrong way to go about it. But it's very hard to not want to do that. It's that too, one kind of thing. Like, I'll go through stretches where, yeah, I'll build a lot of Macross, because right now, that's what my brand of whatever is going on in my head wants. And then I'll switch it over to military stuff. And then I'll get bored with that. Now, even IPMS isn't that bad. But within that, again, I'm trying to do this without naming names, because that's where the trouble starts to creep in. But there's people in my club that honestly could use a, hey, you're not that guy moment. But that's not for me to do. At least I don't think it is. That's more of a collective thing they have to learn when suddenly they do or say something that they are called out for. And if I'm doing something, fucking call me out, And I'll either justify it, or I'll say, okay, you're right, I am being an asshole, I'll stop. And it's not even about the missing the rivets. With one member, they started bringing personal politics into it, and it made me very uncomfortable. And then a couple other members started becoming more political in their own handling of things. And I don't go to the model club to know what side of the political autism spectrum you're on. I go to the model club to see your work. That's it. I could give a shit who you voted for. Oh yeah, I know. And it's not newbies. The person's a very accomplished modeler. He's relatively new to the hobby, yes, but what he does is good work. This is not a discredit to the work they're producing at all. But in a way, you're not wrong. It's almost like a newbie level of popularity contest. And honestly, it's off-putting. And it's why I stopped. It's another. I didn't stop going to the club for any one reason. I tried to tolerate this kind of stuff, you know? And I don't appreciate it. And it's either left or right. It's not, you know, it's not one side or the other. It's a bunch of things. Another thing that did it is I used to play airsoft, right? Just to keep in shape, because I got a bad back and all that other wonderful shit, and it's gotten worse over the years. So for a while it helped keep me a little more limber and a little thinner than I am now. Things have gotten to the point where I can't even do that anymore because bad knees and shit like that. While I played, though, there was somebody that, when I was new to playing airsoft, you know, and, you know, they invited me over to their house to get some parts for an airsoft gun to fix it up. Had to take my son along because he was outside of his daycare time, so I took him with me. Thinking nothing of it, because the guy seemed, you know, okay on the field. And I should have called the cops or been more, you know, forward in my stance at the time. The guy fucking offered me drugs in his house in front of my son. Right? I immediately left, and I looked into the guy. Turns out he's on a couple of watch lists. And, you know, thought nothing of it. Until he showed up at my fucking hobby club last year. Didn't recognize him at first. Until he started to say a few things that I kind of put together. Same guy. I brought it up to the club president. I'm like, dude, if he and his friend keep coming, I'm leaving. He's like, no, we don't want to lose you. I'm like, well, that's what it is. The one guy stopped coming. The other guy kept coming. The one guy that offered the drugs. But then he brought his friend who's, you know, you could tell, you just know certain people are of a certain lifestyle from their overall look. I couldn't tolerate it. You know, they got that... Guy's a tweaker. Plain and simple. They have that waxy skin, that over-enthusiastic nature, overreactive, just... You can tell. Another thing that, you know, kind of put me off it, they have known... Who here knows what Golden Dragon Productions is? Or Superbug Models? Anyone here on the Aircraft Resource Center? I brought this guy up in past streams, but there's a lot of you here that are new. If you've been on Aircraft Resource Center, you've probably heard the name. That individual continues to go to clubs between the one up here and the one in Salt Lake. Nobody can tolerate him, yet nobody's told him, we know about your history, we know about what you do, go away. I can't do that. I'm not the club president. I've done what I can on a personal basis to limit their ability to reach out to me, because I almost got wrapped up in their bullshit due to my own ignorance. But again, once it was found out, I removed that person from my life as much as I could. And then they took steps which I don't appreciate, and still nothing was done. So yeah, there's been a lot of things that have built up that I just no longer tolerate. And that is the main reason I don't go to my club anymore, is they have not gone to the efforts of cleaning it up. And I'm done with it. And I went to one meeting one night that, even communicating that the meeting time or day has changed is very hit or miss. And between all that, I decided, I'm done. I'm not going to this club anymore. I'm not subjecting myself to this for the difficulty it's become going to it. And I can't do anything. Hold on. Outside of, like, say, running for club president, which I don't have the time to do something like that anyway, I have done everything within my power to kind of sort it out. And I'm done supporting that kind of behavior. It's one of those things where you can either keep going back to the bad relationship, or you can remove yourself from it and move on. I moved on. And you can think what you want of me for that. But it's just what I felt was the right thing to do. They can deal with the consequences on their own terms if they continue letting these individuals partake and keep ignoring what other people have said. That's on them. Whether that club survives or not is not my problem. It feels like I've spent a lot of time in the past 2 years since I quit my old job. It feels like I've spent a lot of time reevaluating and removing bullshit things from my life, right? My priorities have changed, my personal expectations for things have changed, and that's my way of making sure that I'm doing what I feel is best for myself. But I even tried talking to the IPMS president, who's a member of our club, because he asked one night, what do you think it is that is, I don't want to say killing the hobby, but what do you think it is that's, reducing the numbers at least? And I put it simply, the nature of the people that you have speaking for you in your reviews. They are making the hobby seem unavailable to people. And by that, I mean, you've got a kid who is willing to shell out $50 to $60 at a time for something, i.e. video games, apps, whatever, music in the store. What is the hobby doing to support that young individual in making the decision to spend their $60 on a trumpeter kit or a Ravel kit. It's not doing much of anything. Yes, we had some younger members show up in my club before I left it, but they were already starting out on that perfectionist angle, and it felt like they had missed the enjoyment aspect. And you could kind of feel it, that they were proud of the work that they did, but they were basically doing it by rote because they saw that's how it was done in a magazine. There was no... You didn't get a sense of... Whenever they talked about their models, you didn't get a sense of, I'm proud of what I've done. You felt more a sense of, here's all the mistakes I made while I was building it. I'm sorry. I'll do better next time. Thank you, sir. May I have another? That's what's wrong in the hobby, to me. Nobody's proud of what they're doing. All they can see is how they fucked up. And like, hey Flight Sim, hey Render Dead. Like Model Student said, he's relatively new to it again. I saw the Centauro video. It looks great. He's working on stuff. He's doing stuff. If he's making mistakes, he's learning from it and moving on. He's not letting it get him down. And one night, one of these guys came in because they're trying to replicate... Sorry, got an ear itch. They're trying something very ambitious. They're replicating an F-35 that got rebuilt out of 2 crashed F-35s. And he's trying to portray how it looked before it was fully repainted, because he works... I'm guessing he worked on the project himself. And I thought he was doing a very good job of conveying that effort, right? But when he was talking about his work on the model, he was talking about all the times he screwed up. And I'm just sitting here thinking, well, wait a minute. You've managed to show us that this plane, even without you telling us that this plane is made of 2 planes, you're able to convey through the model that this plane was made of 2 planes. That is a win. Don't feel sad if that paint doesn't have the exact sheen you want. Feel proud that you were able to convey that you're making that model. And it I don't want to say it upsets me, because I don't know, it's more it's more like when Yoda saw Luke fail to get the X-Wing out of the swamp. Because Yoda knew that Luke missed the forest for the trees when he said it was too big. But he knows he's got the potential, but he's beating himself up for the wrong reason, right? And that's kind of what I felt in that. Yeah, and no model is perfect. If you built a perfect model, then either you built the only one of its kind in existence, or you're a liar. So I'm just going over and making sure that everything's covered, because this thing's going to have a lot of freaking decals all over it. I don't know, part of me feels like I'm I'm circular talking now. But I'm trying to find the best way to describe how in this hobby it's the people that are my age that have to pass on, whoop, hey, drop. You have to pass on the knowledge and the ideas of what to do, not strictly by rote, but just the methodology of it, right? And everything's falling over. My house of cards is tumbling down. What the fuck? I'm guessing I had a splooge out on that part and I didn't notice it. Whoops. I'm just trying to spread the clear coat around before it balls up and ruins the finish. I really don't feel like stripping this. Okay, that's better. Exactly, and there are members of our club that are supportive, but at the same time, there's guys that will sit there and moan on and on and on about how inaccurate something is, and all they've done to correct it. Meanwhile, they haven't finished shit in 3 years, and they're still working on that same model or 3, and it's like, if that's your way of doing it, it makes you happy, that's great. But please be more positive in what you're saying to other people out there who are trying to get into the hobby. If you're a new modeler and you're coming in and all you're seeing is a bunch of people between my age and 80, and the only thing that's coming out of their mouth is how bad the model they're working on is and how much money they've had to spend on aftermarket stuff, are you going to want to do that hobby? When you think that the next model you buy is going to be some piece of shit that you're going to have to spend another $200 on top of your $40 to $60 price tag to make it buildable? No. That is completely giving the wrong impression off. And I've always said to people, we need to get back to basics on what we're describing in these reviews and how we present the hobby to the younger generation, in that you're not spending hundreds, you're spending at most... I'm going to use the Centauro. I'll get to you in a second, Flight Sim. You're distracting my topic here. The Centauro after shipping was about $60, which is average. You know, if you go to a hobby shop, that's about what you'd spend for it off the shelf. I had to get it from a person that I trusted. Haha, Major Havoc. About 30 years, but, you know, between the youngest kid getting into it and my age is about 30 years, but that's the learning area. Yeah, exactly, Model Student. I want people to see that it's a fun hobby. If you choose to buy the aftermarket, that is on you. You've seen me do it. You've seen me print out my own wheels. I could have built that LAV just out of the box, no problem. And if I hadn't looked into it any further, I probably would have been just fine with the tires that were in it. But I looked into it and I saw something I couldn't unsee. Is the model buildable at a fundamental level with no issues? Yes, it is. Is the model, you know, once you learn about that and see how it's different, can you fix it? Yeah, if you want. I didn't have to. You started printing my... It depends on your layer height, Flight Sim. If you're printing at 05, check your exposure times if you're getting a lot of radical print lines. It's also the angle. You can't print flat to plate. You got to angle it all the time. Always angle the part. If it looks like wood grain, it's your layer height. Possibly still the angle too. Sometimes you just got to work with it. But I like to use that age range because I'm 49 going on 50. Most of the people that are in the club are going to be around my age, if not older, because there definitely does seem to be a gap where there's not a lot of people in their mid to late 30s, so to speak. I'm not saying they're not out there, but they're not out there. Not here anyway. That Husky seemed like a fun model too. It's basically an LAV with different features. But the formative years of the hobby, you got your teenage to early 20s builders, you know, they're picking up the paints, they're learning how to build cleanly, they're learning how to build neatly. And what I see as disillusioning people is you get these teenagers who are learning how to build, but they're immediately reading this review saying these tires are terrible, this is terrible, that's terrible, you need this, you need that, before they've decided on their own if that kit needs it. Oh, so you've got the Canadian version of the LAVR. Okay, nice. Yeah, and that's what the hobby needs more of, is the build and bulls and the make and takes. But I think the people that are writing the reviews and writing the articles on the models, there needs to be, I don't want to say a disclaimer. A disclaimer is a bit harsh of a term, because that implies something is wrong. Right? But there needs to be clarification if somebody's going on this super tangent of replacing half the model for accuracy purposes, that they're doing this on their own, but the model is still functionally fine. I've seen people rebuild Leopard 1 turrets because they feel that a half a millimeter angle being off is too much. And to me, that's when it begins to get into the realm of lunacy. I know I'm saying a lot. It's just because I'm trying to find the right terminology without being too aggressively over the top with it. The emphasis needs to be put back on the enjoyment of the hobby, plain and simple. Not in the exactness of the detail, but in just the fundamentals. And I think that's what the skill level kits were trying to do. But then you started getting people saying it's a skill level 2 kit, but honestly it's a skill level 1. You know, it's if you want to build it, that's fine, you're a baby, you know. You see, Flight Sim, that's where I was the opposite. Like, my father always built them, and now I've got to the point where I'm actually teaching him shit. But that's only because and it's not because he felt he needed to, but he only built to a certain standard, and that was fine. He never got wrapped up in this need to make things better. He just built them to the best of his ability. And the model club I was in Florida at the time was also like that. We had, and this is back in the late 80s to mid 90s, because I left Florida in 94. We had the rivet counters, but the fundamentals of the club were there. And the people who added extra detail fostered the idea of only doing it if you needed to, right? It wasn't necessary to complete the model to a high standard to do that. And they were also welcoming of younger modelers. They didn't ostracize younger modelers because they didn't do that. And I'm not saying that other clubs are ostracizing it, but you get these younger modelers, like the kid with the F-35. I'm not saying he's trying next level stuff, but does he enjoy it? And I have to ask myself that when I see some of these younger folks doing it, because you see them do good work, but then they just completely drop out of the hobby, and it's like, what happened? I think it's because they stopped enjoying it. They didn't get enjoyment out of it because they didn't learn to build to a high standard of what's in the box and enjoy the fruits of that labor. They entered the hobby. They didn't learn to play football with their friends. They learned to play football at an NFL level. They learned to build models at an IPMS Nationals judging level. To me, that's wrong. And that's where the enjoyment of the hobby got lost. They didn't learn building models with their friends. They learned building models and comparing their work to IPMS judges. When I was building, I had Verlinden and Shep Payne as my examples of what to build up to. But I also had friends building models that we built to each other's standards as well. We would talk to each other about what we're making and how we're doing it and what we're using, what we're trying. And we would learn and fail from that. That doesn't happen anymore. You know, and I think that's where the disconnect is now, is the teenagers don't have teenage level friends building. There's a younger kid in our club, comes with his dad. He's 10 or 12, you know, somewhere in there. And he tries hard, and you can see where his stuff's getting better. But at the same time, you can see when he looks at our stuff, he's like, holy crap, what am I doing? And part of the fundamentals is allowing yourself to fail. You know? And that's just it, that nobody is allowed to fail anymore. That might be the key. That might be the key. And if anyone watches this VOD, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get to the next part of the construction on this. When it comes to certain aspects of the hobby, people aren't allowed to fail anymore. Everything's got to be done right the first time. With the prices of models, yeah, I can kind of see that. But we're not talking about that. We're just talking about the basic fundamentals of construction. Yeah, nobody's allowed to fail anymore is part of it. And that goes back to what I said earlier about I got 40 years of failure to know what I'm doing right. Where's my nippers? There's my nippers. Like, people watch me on my stream and they go, "You make that look easy." And I tell them, it is that easy. The difference being, I've been doing it forever, you haven't done it, so in your brain, you're looking at it and you're thinking it's harder than it is. It can be, especially if you're looking to get neat and tidy results. It can be done quickly and easily. But you have to be willing to screw up. Exactly, Major Havoc. Things can be repainted, things can be stripped, things can be touched up. And that's the thing, is people aren't allowing themselves room to fail anymore. I mean, how many hobby forums have you gone to in the past? Somebody gets this kit. They're doing great on the fundamentals of construction. Then they get to the painting. Oh my god, what did I do? I screwed up! Ah! And the thing is, the problem's easily fixed, but they're so... They've been trained to be so into not failing that they think they screwed up royally. You know? Actually, no. Some of the first model kits, when they came out, back in the 50s, weren't even made of styrene plastic. They were made of other stuff. Oh, what's his name? Shit. He's got a YouTube channel, and he actually goes into all the old model companies, like Aurora, Revell, Monogram. Oh, I subbed to him. Let me see if I can find his channel real quick. He doesn't put up videos as often as he used to, but he's very informative. Like I learned shit from him. Oh, what was his name? What was his name? He was one of the first channels I subbed to when I started. Sorry, I know we've gotten completely sidetracked, but isn't this what streams are for? Oh, God. Let me try a search here. Revell history. Max's models. Okay. I gotta... Why? What the hell? I used to be subbed to him. I'm not anymore. This guy goes in-depth on different kits, different manufacturers, but he is also very basic in what he does. He's another modeler that does not talk above his level, in that there's other people out there who will bash a kit, and we've talked about that before too. So I'm going to put the link in here. Go to this channel, follow it. The guy is a wealth of information. But again, he doesn't talk above his station in terms of, I'm going to shit on this kit, but I don't have the skills to back up what I'm talking about in terms of quality. And that's why you don't see me bashing on a lot of kits. I'll have my opinions about the kits if I've built it. And I will certainly say these models, anything wrong with them, I caused the problem with. Unless I run into a fundamental issue that keeps the model from being built. You know, I won't buy a model that I know is 40 years old and then shit on it because it didn't come with photo etch and Lincoln length tracks, and it's a Tamiya mold from 1974, and then complain about its accuracy. No. Or say I feel like I got ripped off. No, I won't do that. But I think I put more thought into stuff like that than other people do. Yeah, I didn't build these engines before. Okay, model student, I'll check it out when we're done here today. When you first subbed, I totally did not know that you streamed until I looked into your channel more, and I'm like, oh, okay, ding! But I also know to look on the box for what I'm buying. And so, there's been plenty of times I have been pleasantly surprised because I thought a model didn't have something, and it did. And I'm like, ooh, okay, yes, good. But having built the model Victoria Centauro in the past, and I built the Ace one, I looked through the parts really quick on the Trumpeter one, and I have to say, I am excited to build the Trumpeter Centauro. come on, what am I doing wrong here? Besides, I'm getting a little shaky. Might need to eat here in a minute. How long are we at now? Oh wow, we're at almost 4 hours. This stream's gone on a bit longer than I thought. But that's good. If I'm aiming for longer streams. One, it gives you guys more time to back and forth like we're doing today. And it gives me more time on the bench to get shit done. But yeah, there's been a glut of people trying to speak from positions of authority on certain subjects when they're honestly in a position of ignorance on others. And that ignorance comes back and bites them in the ass. And if I'm wrong on something, please tell me. I will redact that, or I will apologize for that if I know I'm wrong. But I'm not going to buy a Tamiya T34-76 molded in 1974. Yeah, but that strand can be removed. You have glue gun string, I have cat hair. My models are covered in cat hair, I'll be the first to admit that. And I also know I'm not perfect. But I also know I've got enough jewelry to back up some of the stuff that I've done. Yeah. Yeah, and it's when I'm enjoying myself in these longer streams, I hope it shows through. Because going back to what we were saying earlier, I know there's been streams where you guys can tell I'm trying my hardest, but I'm failing. And I don't like streams like that. Now these are supposed to be ball jointed so you can move them around. Okay, yeah, whatever. I'm gluing them. I don't care, they're all getting painted steel. Because this goes on here. This goes, there we go. And then gets trapped in here. Like that. As long as I don't glue that, I'm fine. But today's stream has been very enjoyable, and I'm glad you were all here for it. But it has been 4 hours. I am getting shaky because I haven't eaten since breakfast this morning, and it's almost 4 p.m. my time. So I am going to call it a stream. Probably better that we let it sit anyway. Tuesday we'll do decals. I know decals and me on streams don't usually get along, but I have a good feeling about this one. I think it's because it's not being wallpapered and I have to be precise with every single one. Well, I do and I don't. These are more casual. The other one I was trying to wallpaper the Reliant, and that never goes easily. But I think we'll stop stream. Major Havoc, thank you very much for all the gift subs. Aries and Alex, thank you for the donations. Every little bit helps. They're not cat hairs, they are sensors and antennas. Exactly. But thank you all for your support. Share the streams. Do whatever you can outside of that. Everything's appreciated. I've noticed the numbers are going up on the YouTube side. That's where I'm kind of putting most of my energy because I have a feeling that can generate more passive stuff for what we want to do in the future. But yeah, we're at a good spot. It'll be good to let this sit. I'll probably do a couple test decals here and there. But yeah, we're in a good spot. But we're going to call it a day here. Thank you everyone for watching. And today's been an awesome stream, and hopefully Tuesday can be